So cyber insecurities, what are your insecurities? And this hashtag learning opportunity, or this video series is focused on helping business owners to know what they need to do in order to get secure. And most times there's things that you already have at your disposal that you could just implement and make your business a lot more secure, both from your data and for your customers. So last week we talked about using an asset management tracker. I showed using a Google Sheets in order to do that. So it's not just about tracking your cell phones and your routers and switches and computers. It's also about tracking the software. And every software system or application that you use should be using a different password. So password is the focus of this week, and the idea here is to make sure that you use a secure password policy and implementation procedure throughout your entire business. So one of the things that I like to try to implement is a secure password policy. Obviously, well, I don't want to say obviously, but a lot of small businesses just don't have a password policy in place. They don't even know what to do for a password within their computer or their cell phone. A lot of people use the fingerprint or the face scanners in order to unlock their phones now. So a password isn't something that's really prevalent to them. I want you to think about a password as a way of keeping each of your applications or your systems secure. However, it's also to keep them secure from each other. So a very good practice within a password policy is to implement a requirement that every system you use has a different password. So your computers have different passwords from each other. Your applications, so your banks, let's say you have 4 or 5 different banks, and for a small business, it's not uncommon for you to have a different personal bank and a business bank, and then maybe your credit card systems for your banks or for your business are separate from the credit cards that you use for your personal use as well. So for each of those, you really need to implement a practice of having a different password for each of them. So just to think about it, if you were to use the same password for all of your banking, credit card, financial things, if somebody were to compromise just one of those accounts, now they have access to all of your accounts. And that's something that you really don't want. You don't want people to easily gain access to all of your systems just because they got into one. There was a research done, I don't remember when it was, but I believe it was by the University of Virginia Tech a while back that basically showed that if a hacker, even a hacker with minimal experience and abilities, if they were able to get access to one of your accounts, almost always they were able to hack into every account that you had within 10 minutes, because most people use some variation of the same password for all of their accounts. So maybe it's ABC123, and then they have bank, ABC123, credit card, ABC123, cell phone account. So that type of thing is something you really want to try to avoid doing. You need to have a unique password for every account, and it's very difficult to do that, right? In order to remember all those different passwords, you see here I have a password manager up, and this is one that I've used recently to make it a little bit easier for our business as well. So this is something that we're implementing across our personal business with my wife's candle company, is implementing a more secure practice of password procedures. All right, so we have a password policy now within the business that states that we have to have a randomly generated password of 16 to 20 characters with uppercase, lowercase letters, numbers, and special characters. But the special characters shouldn't be ambiguous. So basically, letters that look like something else, if you were to read it, and make it a little bit harder for you to track it. So we try to take those out of there. One of the things that I like to suggest is if your bank says that you have to have a minimum of 8 characters, make it different than whatever that is, because a lot of times when somebody's trying to hack into an account, they will simply look at okay, this account or this vendor requires 8 characters or 10 characters. I'm only going to focus on passwords using 8 characters, because a lot of people do just the bare minimum, exactly what's required, not more. So even if your account requires a 16 character, do 17 characters, do 20, do something different than what they require as their standard, because then that changes it up for somebody actually trying to hack into your system or your account. They're not going to be able to get into it as easily. Another thing to really focus on is making sure that you have a unique, and if you can use a password generator, which is something we're going to go over in a minute, is very, very helpful. So LastPass is a password manager that I've started to implement with my family business, just because it makes things a little bit easier for management of the passwords. It's not necessarily the best. I mean, there's lots of password managers out there, so everybody has their own opinion. I've used other ones. I've had a few different ones that I've used previously, but as far as something that's online that I can take across multiple devices, I can use it as an extension on Chrome, which is what we see here. I can also use it as an application on my mobile device, and I can access it directly from the cloud, which is really nice. I have created an account once before and lost the password, and if you do not have the information that is required for doing the password recovery, you can't get in. Even if you try contacting LastPass, they won't help you because you don't have access to the information that you need for your reset. They can't hack it for you. So I basically had to create a new account. So that was good for me. That was good to see that it's not as easy as doing just, I forgot my password, and they'll send you a password reset link in your email. It's not that easy. So if you lose your information from LastPass, you're going to be in trouble. So here you just need to create one password for your password manager. It needs to be strong. I would still suggest it being strong, even though especially since it's going to be the thing that manages all of your passwords. So just hop in, create an account. It's free to sign up. If you want to pay for the other versions, so I have a family account, which allows me to kind of share passwords between the different accounts that we have, which is pretty nice. So if I've created an account for my bank systems and things that may be separate from that my wife doesn't normally have access to, I mean, she has access to all of them, but I can just share that account into her account. So instead of her having to go in and manually input all of those password accounts, she just has them just by accepting it. So LastPass is very easy. It pops up as an extension once you sign into it from Google Chrome, and I think it works on Firefox as well, but Chrome I definitely know works very well. But inside here, you can quickly jump to the sites that you have. You can do form fills. You can do you can tell it to auto-generate a secure password. If you do this way, it will pop up with the password here. See that it shows you different character lengths, right? So you can say this one requires 8, this one requires 16, this one requires 20, and you can tell it what you want. Advanced options, you can say, I also want special characters. I want to make it pronounceable, right? So a word, it sounds like something. That's not necessarily required for me. So make sure that you go through this and set up a password policy for your company, right? And make sure that it's something that not only you can do, but something that you're going to enforce with your team members and your employees, because you having a secure account for all of your applications doesn't help if one of your employees has a super simple password like monkey, right? Because monkey is one of the easiest passwords and one of the worst passwords in the list for 2018. Out of the passwords of the worst 100, monkey was one of them. So make sure that you enforce these things on your accounts throughout your business as well, because if one of your employees has a simple password that's able to be hacked, then they're in your application and it's not necessarily you. So that's one of the big things that you want to focus on, making sure that you have a strong password policy for your company. Not just you having strong passwords, but having a strong password policy is very important. So using this method right here, you can quickly generate a password. If you know you want to use it, you can click use password. If you want to copy it, it'll just go into your clipboard, and then you can go into another window and paste it into the window area that's asking you for that new password. Another thing that's really nice about the Chrome extension, since it's running in here, if you were to right click somewhere, you'll see LastPass down here. And if you were in a field that's actually looking for a password, it will give you the option for generate secure password off of there. That makes things super simple for quickly adding things to. Another way is if you have logged into the extension for Chrome that you see here, anytime you log into a new account, it's going to pop up and ask you if you want to add that account to your vault, right? So the accounts or the sites that you have on your vault. So let's go ahead and sign into something. I'm probably already signed into LinkedIn, but if I am, I'll sign out real quick and then sign back in. Plus, I can just edit this part out. Man, that was slow. Let me sign out so that it pops up with this. So we're going to try to sign in here to LinkedIn. It's already got my information up here, but this is actually the Google passwords being saved and not the password safe. So, or not the LastPass, I'm sorry. So if you see here, anytime it pops up in the window, it'll show you the LastPass application extension icon right here. If you click on it, it would show you log in as, and it would have different passwords there, different accounts there that would auto fill in. Now, this is auto filled in from my Google passwords that are saved in there, which now that I'm adding things in, this is something that I'm going in and replacing. Now, here's something I want to show you. When you add a new account or a new site to your vault within LastPass, most times it's as simple as signing into something while the extension is running. So let's go ahead and sign into this. It should pop up and ask me if I want to add LinkedIn. So now you see that since I logged in into LinkedIn, you'll see right here it asks me, do I want to add to LastPass? Let's go ahead and do that now. I do want to add it. Now I know the password in there is not very strong, so it's something that I'd need to do an update on anyway. So now that I just added that account, it's a great opportunity to go in and make a change to it. So I'm going to jump over to the settings, and I'm going to go change my password in LinkedIn since I'm here. And I'm going to pause this just for a second so you don't see the password that I put in. So now the password is in there. It says your password must be at least 8 characters, including one number or special character. I have that there. Mine's actually 20 characters. And this is going to say require all devices to sign in with the new password. So whenever I go to sign in with my mobile device, it's going to pop up and ask me for that new password as well. So I'm going to go ahead and click on save here. Now the password is saved. Now, one of the things about this that's going to happen is it's going to come up automatically here and say, hey, there's been an update to your password. You just told LastPass to generate a password, and now you updated it here in your account. We see an account with this in your vault sites. We've updated that password for you. And just click OK. That's just letting you know that now in LastPass it has the new password that you just created. It is secure. It is, in this case, 20 characters or better. So that's a quick way to set up your password in there. Now, one of the things that I suggest to people, and I don't have it set up on this account, I specifically created this new account in LastPass because I wanted to show you how to do some stuff with it. So I want to make sure that I do pop over here and show you a couple other things. Now, creating and updating your sites in LastPass is very important, right? It's very important for you to do that. It's very important that you have a password policy that not only you implement, but that you force your employees to implement as well. It's very important that you tell them, hey, this is now our new password policy. And more than anything else, you need to document that password policy. Just put in writing exactly what the process is, how many characters they need to have for each of their accounts, and make sure that they use a unique password for every single account that they use. But another thing that has really become very popular for people, and I think a lot of it is because it's become easier to use, is multi-factor authentication. You'll also hear it called a two-factor authentication. So basically, you'll log in with username and password, and then it's going to prompt you for something else. It may be something like an authenticator, or which is also called a token generator. It may ask you for a token. It may ask you for what a lot of things like Gmail. That one will actually pop up with it'll send a message to a phone that's registered on that account and say, hey, is this you trying to sign in? So those are ways of multi-factor authentication becoming a lot easier for people to implement, which is why people are starting to use it. So under LastPass, I want to just quickly hop in there and set up multi-factor authentication with you since we're here, and we can walk through how this works. So inside of your vault, in your vault, we're gonna go down to account settings. And again, I didn't set this up previously because I wanted to make sure that on this new account, I could use this as a setup or a demo for you so that you can see how to configure it as well. Multi-factor authentication is huge as far as just adding another step of security to your account. So not only do you have a password, I may have to refresh this. So not only do you have a password that's strong to get into your account, but you also have another thing that's going to be required of you in order to gain access to your devices. So in your account settings, there's a bunch of different things you can set up here. You can change your passwords. You can force a password reset every so often. You can use a phone for recovery, which I don't have it set up in here. I do recommend this. Setting up a phone for recovery is very important because, like I told you a few minutes ago, I had a device that I locked out, or an account that I locked out, and I couldn't get into it because I did not set this up. I thought, I don't need that. So you don't want to have that. So I would go in here, set up a phone. I'll do this offside of here because I really don't want to share my phone number with everybody. But multi-factor options up here at the top in your account settings. It's another menu, and definitely we're going to walk through the rest of these in a few minutes. But let's go ahead and turn on a multi-factor authentication tool. So we're going to use Google Authenticator. And in order for you to use Google Authenticator, you have to have this application downloaded on your phone. So real quick, we're going to walk through how to do that. I'm going to hop over here to QuickTime. And so this is a screen recording of my phone. You can go into your app store and just search for Authenticator, and you can look for the Authenticator app. Inside of the Authenticator, you're just going to look for these ones up here are just ads, right? They're things that were paid for. They pop up automatically. Look for Google Authenticator and go ahead and download that. And once it's downloaded, it should pop up on your screen as an application. And then you're going to launch Google Authenticator. You should have different things in here. So you're going to be looking for these accounts. You probably can't see any of these because I'm going to try to blur them out. So hopefully you won't be able to see them. But we're going to add a new account on here. So we're going to enable Google Authenticator. We're going to permit offline access. And we're going to do... And then we're going to click on this view the barcode. We're going to enter the LastPass master password. It's going to require us to do this in order for us to set up a new authentication option here in the the master password stuff. So now it's going to show us this. It's going to show us this barcode that we can use. So from inside of the application, we're going to click on this plus symbol up at the top. We want to add a new site, and at the bottom, we're going to click on scan barcode. Now it's going to open up my camera, and we're going to go here, scan this barcode, and you will see down here at the bottom that it adds LastPass for a account on my Google Authenticator. Now the way this works is it creates a new 6-digit character or six-digit PIN every 60 seconds. So after 60 seconds, that goes away, and once that goes away, you cannot change it. So we're updating this once again, so we need to go ahead and type in that master password one more time. Click continue. We're finishing this up. Now it's asking us to run the Google Authenticator on the application. So I'm just going to quickly grab that 6-digit character, 6-digit PIN. And again, this changes every 60 seconds. So when you see this recording, it will not be the same thing. Now, the next time that I need to log into LastPass, it's going to force me to log in using that multi-factor authentication, which let's go ahead and give this a shot and make sure that it forces me to do so. So let's log out. And then we're going to log back in with that same account. Now see, it's asked me for that authentication again. So now, again, all we're doing is popping over to Google Authenticator, and we're selecting from the code for that. Now, once it turns red, you're running out of time. So at that point, just wait and let it refresh, and then take that code and put it in. And then at this point, if you don't want to have to sign in with this authenticator every time, click on this right here. I want to sign in every time that I've signed out, right? So, or you can just add it in. It's completely up to you. Authenticate. So luckily I did that just in time before it ended, and boom, it pops up right there again. So setting up your password with a strong policy is very important. Enabling things like multi-factor authentication on this as well as on your email accounts. So you can do the same thing on your MailChimp, on your most of your web host. So if you are using an online web host for your website, you can set up multi-factor authentication with them. You can set up multi-factor authentication with your personal website. So almost every website, if you're using WordPress or anything like that, you can set up multi-factor authentication with that. Your email accounts through Gmail. Gmail is a really easy one because it will actually, you can set it up to just send a message to your phone, and all you have to do is say, yes, that's me trying to log in. And if it's not you, you quickly say no, and it blocks that login from happening. So you can't, so that person, whoever's trying to hack in, cannot get into your device. There are options there for making it a little bit easier by saying, let it go for 30 days without asking me again. That needs to come from your password policy. If you're okay with it trusting your device for 30 days, great. If you're not okay with that and you want it to ask you every single time, that's completely up to you as well. I do want to jump through these last few sections in your account settings because I said that I would a few minutes ago before we finish up hashtag cyber insecurities for week 2. And so we have the multi-factor authentications. Again, we just enabled Google Authenticator. You can use the LastPass Authenticator. You can use all these other different ones depending on what your company requires. Yubico, that's a paid thing, so I'm not going to go over that. But if you want to look into what a YubiKey is, Basically, it's a USB that you can plug into your device, and it's a password authenticator for you. Trusted device. I didn't tell it to remember that computer for 30 days, so it doesn't pop up here. But if you did, it would show up there. Again, nothing in here. So you have the ability to restrict devices as they come in. And if it's something that's been there, let's say you want to reset all of them, you can come in here and just reset what things that it will link to. Never URLs. Turn off LastPass for specific websites. You don't want LastPass to try to take any action when you visit a specific website. You can add a site in here. So never add this site, never generate a form, never fill forms. So let's say you have a website that you're logging into for a vendor that you work with. You do not want to set up a site in there, especially if it's something that, let's say, they give you an SSL password and it's a username and then a soft token that's generated. It's a new token every time. So if it generates a new password for you every time, then you're going to be sitting there typing in and it's going to create 100 accounts for you. So for that, you would say, add this site. I do not want, whatever website being added into my vaults because it's not something that ever needs to be there. Equivalent domains is just popping into saying like this domain is also the same as another one. So Bank of America, BOFA. So these things, so that it doesn't try to add a site for the same thing. So maybe like if you have a mobile version of your website and then just a regular version of your website under WordPress, you don't want it to add two sites for the same domain. So you can tell that these are equivalent. It's the same thing. It's the same login. That way it doesn't make multiple sites on your vault. And then URL rules, you can tell it to to follow a specific path and whether or not it needs to match a host or match a port. In here, this is a little more in depth, especially when you're logging into a specific member part or a specific area within a URL. So port, like logging in through a specified port. If you need to go over this, please feel free to reach out to me and I can put something together for this. But most people probably aren't using this a whole lot outside of what's already in here. Again, if you have any questions, send me a message and I will put together a quick video on this. So hashtag cyber insecurities. Let me hop over to this page so you can see my my little slide again, what business owners need to know to get secure. If you have any questions, please reach out to me. And between now and next week, what are your insecurities?